And welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. My name is Brandon Keane, and you know I do thank you for tuning on in.
It's hot and sweaty and stanky.
Ooh, it's going to get hot, sticky today. We're going to talk a little bit of tight end talk today, folks, as we've been going through trying to look a little bit back at the prior year here and what's happening. And it's probably not evident here right out the gate on some of these shows of what I'm kind of trying to build up to. And it's a little bit of something that we do throughout the off seasons as we look at the football team and the potential of what the Seahawks could be for the upcoming season, where I try and kind of put together the case for how this team can lock it in, for how the parts and pieces can all kind of come together, for everything to allow this team to then take that next step forward, that frustrating step forward that we just seem to be on the precipice of making almost every single year here in recent memory, but just can't seem to get over the hump of to that next spot of things. And I think it's going to be a lot of inner working parts here like it is with all teams, but because we're not as necessarily top heavy as other teams in the NFL, it's going to be even more reliant on those supporting parts to fit to their roles to bring the most of this team, cumulatively speaking. It will truly be a team this year that brings up the success of the Seahawks, not driven by some star quarterback or just one side of the ball or the other that has to kind of carry the water. It's not going to be like that at all. And to that point, men like A.J. Barner are going to be highly valuable pieces within this, fitting to a role, fitting to a spot, and fitting to it really well. I talked about Tyrese Knight, the will linebacker for your Seattle Seahawks, a couple weeks ago and spoke to the fact that I thought that he had the best rookie year for a will linebacker, a weak side linebacker, going all the way back to Leroy Hill. So it's almost been 20 years, and yet few people have really talked about Tyrese and the kind of year that he did have. I think to a lesser degree, you see somewhat of the same kind of thing when it comes to A.J. Barner. Because A.J. Barner, Michigan tight end that we drafted in the 4th round last year, came in and gave you quietly the 3rd best receiving season for a Seattle Seahawks rookie tight end in their entire history. And not talked a lot. And look, only a couple hundred yards. So I understand that, well, he only got a couple hundred yards receiving. It'd be maybe more noteworthy if we're talking about this 700, 800, 900 yards receiving rookie year. That would be impressive. But I think that that's where we can't go to that mark necessarily because, number one, that rarely happens with any tight ends in this sport. But number two, the fact that it's 3rd in your history, and to show you guys kind of the way this bears out a little bit. Here are your top 3 receiving rookie seasons for a tight end in their history. You got Jeremy Stevens, John Carlson, and then A.J. Barner there at the bottom. And you can see with Carlson, he had a magnificent their rookie year. 627 yards, 5 touchdowns receiving, 55 catches on 80 targets, obviously targeted a lot more. We don't know with Stevens what his target rate was. They weren't really keeping track of that as much, back in that day. But you can see a fitted in here is Barner with pretty much at least the 3rd best receiving tight end season for a Seahawk. You even go maybe 2nd, depending on if you want to give that measure of an extra touchdown that he's got. But he's got the 4 TDs to Carlson's 5. 38 targets, 30 receptions, so he was efficient when he was targeted, made the most of what he could there as he could. He wasn't a big play machine, and again, 245 yards isn't to say that he lit the world on fire, but it is to show here, when you look at the history of the Seahawks, we're now going to be 50 years old, our organization, that there has been so few tight ends that have had this kind of impact to kind of show you how hard it is to have that kind of impact. It takes time to develop at this position sometimes, and you got to get your feet wet there before you're ready to fully jump in and do a cannonball in there next year. I'm not predicting stardom with Barner as far as that he's on this road. If we were to predict between Tyrese Knight and Barner, who's the guy who's going to potentially become a Pro Bowl type player, I'd lean more into a Tyrese Knight. But the part of this to keep in mind with this is not simply the receiving yardage. This man was brought in to be a blocking tight end as much as anything else. That was what was going to carry the day. He had only, I think, something like 19 targets in his final year in college football, even less than what he got last year as kind of a backup tight end, and sometimes even the 3rd tight end on the roster. And so understanding that he had the 3rd best receiving season for a rookie tight end in Seahawks history, while then providing really strong blocking on the other side of it in a couple of different ways, and that his blocking is real and true. And I think even the grades he was given at times this year don't quite fully capture where he was at as a blocker. Here you see his PFF grade overall, where he ranked versus other tight ends in the sport, and you can find him at 41 there, just between Dalton Schultz and Cole Kmet of the Chicago Bears with a 61 grade, which would be just about slightly below average as far as how you would measure that. You can see nothing was stood out in his game that was over anything else. Everything was kind of right around in this sort of same period from how he caught the ball to how he blocked in that realm of things. So again, these aren't going to be things that illustrate necessarily, but this is also how good a year he had. But this is also why we go back in and we look at the tape here, because sometimes PFF doesn't always seem to get everything right on that. It's not the end all be all. It's just a tool we try to use to kind of balance this through a little bit to get a better understanding of where the player sits, but not to be the end all be all. We're going to look at the tape to let that be the case here. You can see he was very good receiving, was the best thing that they said he did, actually, even above the run blocking on this side, though they don't have the run blocking listed on this one, but he was also a pretty good pass blocker in those moments you asked him to do that. I don't know why their grade is kind of so low for him as a pass blocker or even as a run blocker, because on tape he's doing some good things, which I'm going to definitely be showing you guys. So a little bit odd in that way of things. He was used in a kind of a variety of different ways last year. So though he is a pure inline guy, you can see that he's racked up. Let's see here. So he's got. So we got 260 pass snaps. And you can see that with that in line, he's at only 126. So still 9.2% of the time aligned out wide, and then 39.6% of the time aligned in the slot. So a little bit of flexibility and versatility he gives you from the position, even though he is the inline guy, even though that's going to be where he's going to go into the future. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can't kind of put him in some other places too creatively, though he's a guy that's really going to be the Arroyo freer-upper. He's the guy that allows Arroyo to be used all over this formation so that he can do the dirty work and get that done. He's even with the contested catches last year, and those times he got those opportunities, 3 contested catches in 4 attempts. That's pretty good on that side of it. He showed some pretty good hands. Had a couple drops here and there, but nothing really bad. So a solid overall year in how he was graded, especially for a rookie. Again, I don't expect this to light the world on fire as far as these grades or these numbers go, but you've got to put him all the way together as a player all the way around. So you don't just look at what he does as a receiver or outrunning, but what is he doing as a blocker as well, and then put him together in that this is a pure inline, old school, traditional tight end. And so giving you the full skill set is so nice and helpful, because a lot of these tight ends coming out now don't like to block very much. It's not as much their thing. They're more about, hey, I'll be here to catch the ball. Line me out, let me go run routes, let me go catch balls. So having a guy that can do both this, freeing up Arroyo to do what he's going to be able to do, is going to be mighty helpful. But let's look at the tape here. Let me show you some of the snaps here from last year of A.J. Barner to give you an idea of things. And I think that A.J. Barner, part of why I wanted to feature him on this show again is not just looking at the bottom line stats or ranks or whatnot, but to understand the situation that he dealt with. He walked in on the team with a Noah Fant just getting a contract extension, and Noah's not just used as an H-back. They will put him in line. And so there was going to be a lot of games, a lot of snaps where he was going to take snaps away from A.J. Barner. Pharaoh Brown, a guy they signed on a 1-year, $3 million deal, was also going to be on the mix, and the team used him a lot on the football field, and at times at the cost of having A.J. Barner out there. So understanding, when you look at Jeremy Stevens came in to be your number 1 tight end from basically the jump, walking in on that Seahawks team 20-some-odd years ago. John Carlson, when he walked in 2008, I believe it was, as a second-round pick, he was brought in to be a de facto starter. With Barner, he has to kind of wait his turn. So he generates this productivity kind of stacked behind the depth chart, sometimes behind 2 guys on that depth chart, to go out there and get what he gets done. He also is being a little bit held back in other ways here too, because last year, I don't know if you guys remember this, but the Seattle Seahawks offensive line had some issues in pass protecting at times. It wasn't the best. And so Grubbs countered to this a lot of the time, especially with Barner in there and Barner being their best pass blocking tight end, is to have him doing the chip game. And so he's not always allowed to run really pure routes right off the inline, right off ball, get upfield and go shake somebody and get some freed up open. A lot of the snaps, he's in there having to do first the chip, and then he's leaking out, and that's where a lot of his productivity kind of comes from. So I think that he was really boxed in, which only to me speaks to how good of a season he had last year, considering he was kind of had a little bit limited in what he was able to do as far as impact, like a fifth, the sixth man coming off the bench in the NBA, where you got to come in and you got to microwave things quick and come in there and get your points fast, because you're not going to get starter minutes. And I felt like he did a really good job last year of maximizing that stuff. But let's show you exactly what I'm talking about in regards to this. Let me show you a couple of cut-ups from Barner. And a lot of the stuff that you're going to get from him with the 200 yards receiving is going to be a little bit like this, where it's just him coming off the line of scrimmage, sitting down, making the catch, Nothing very fancy to it on that. But a lot of it was the chip game that you had him running. So I'm going to run a couple of shots here of this just to kind of give you guys the idea of what he's doing here. He comes up underneath off the end line here, just sets right down. I mean, it's basic route running here, right? There's not a lot of advanced stuff, but you're not asking him to do a lot of advanced stuff. And he doesn't have to. He's going to fit to that role as we go into the future, like I said, of really a pure inline guy. As you can see, that's just how they use him here. Geno recognizes him quickly. Same play here, just cuts inside, gets in. This is not the same play. It's actually a different play. Shows a little bit of that toughness here. Makes the catch, takes the hit, holds on to the ball. Really stands out with him too is that he really does finish runs. He's not looking to go down easy. He's looking to really, at times, even punish guys after the catch, which is cool to see. Definitely an old school tight end kind of mentality and vibe that he brings in that way. A couple other catches here. Again, just a crosser. He's going to come. He's coming up here from the right-hand side of your screen. So you're going to see him right here. Just a basic crosser. There's nothing illustrious with this kind of route running here, but this is what you're asking him to do. That's that boxed in kind of role. And you can see here, you're going to get some of that finish I talked about. Fearless guy after the catch. Going to go jump up. There's about 3 yards to go gain extra here by him jumping a yard to gain extra. And he's like, the hell with it. I'm young. My body feels good. I can take it. Finishes the runs. You love to see that with him. A little bit of, again here, just sitting down. So a lot of these kind of routes you're having him do. Here and there you were asking him at times to be able to go out there and do a little bit more. But a lot of this is too just going to be him lined up with the chip game, which I'm going to show you in a second. Good route running here on a crosser. Now, the play's not going to go to him, but I didn't get a lot of opportunities in looking back at the film of him to really get a great idea of the route running, because so much of it is that chip and run stuff that he's doing, which I'm going to show you in a second. And so I wanted to kind of take note of these rare moments where you do get him with some route running. Creates a little separation there. Geno's going somewhere else with the ball. But you like him getting upfield here pretty quick. And if Geno's looking his way, there is some separation there on the play. There is those times I said that he was in the slot and that you can see that Seattle used him in that way here and there. They didn't feature him a lot when he was in the slot. So that's the one thing with that. Wasn't in there on that a lot, but when he was, they used him here and there. And this is a hell of a play by him. He's just going to go right up the seam, get into the hole there between the 3 defenders, take the hit, make the catch. He'll make the tough grab in there. I'm not going to say he's got gluey kind of hands or vice grip hands, but he's got definitely strong enough hands to make these kind of catches, and you can use him occasionally from the slot. You're seeing he's not super fast, but he's not ploddingly slow either on that side of it. He did have himself a couple of touchdown receptions last year, 4 to be exact. This one is probably the most impressive against the Vikings. You've got him here on the left-hand side, and he's going to run it just in basically kind of dig route there. Just cut it inside once he gets clear of the coverage here. Kind of a cool play here, though. Nice route concept by Grubb. We'll give him a hard time here, but this is a good one here. You run JSN off, so you get the safety there, run off, and then he runs right behind him. Kind of a flood zone concept a little bit. Light flood zone concept in the back of the end zone. Not a bad little cut there from him. And he did get the feet down, by the way. So a little toe tag drag swag from your boy Barner as well. Not bad. This is his best route on the touchdown. One of the better routes of the year right there. A lot of the stuff with him on the touchdown is going to be a bit like this here with the Lions, where the defense just basically kind of forgets about him. He dives in for a touchdown. So here, just running a little drag right across the field. Defense never picks him up. And a lot of that is just he did so much blocking. Defenses would at times kind of just sort of forget about him. Like, oh, yeah, you're here. That's right. We probably should pay attention to you and what you got going on there. So there were some catches in there. There was a lot of stuff here where it's kind of kitschy and selective. I mentioned the block and catch stuff. So let's go through a couple of these to kind of show you what I meant by that. where he's going to start in. He's here to chip first. He chips, then he clears. Defense forgets about him because he's chipping and clearing, but he does what he can do, and he accomplishes the 2-for-1, essentially. He gets the block laid, and he gets out there and gets the route run. So chip, go get free. Make the catch, and then finishing the run like I told you guys he does. Look at that. Look at that finish there. Not too shabby there, huh? Two guys out, still going through the final two guys. This kind of play tells you a lot about the toughness of him. So many players here to run out of bounds. But he decides to first run through Ginkle, fight through the tackle on his legs, and then lowers his head to finish against two defenders converging on him. This kid's old school all the way in that way. That's just going to make me love him anyway, right? You had me at hello, AJ. You had me at hello. All right, second one like this, same kind of situation here. I want you to look over to your left side. Sorry, I've got to start some of these plays kind of midstream because you can only run so many of these before YouTube grabs you. He's over there on the left-hand side. Quick chip. Then he leaks out. Boom. Leak out. Gino finds him. Go finish the run. Look at that. Runs through the guy's face. Runs through the guy's face. This guy definitely has heard that Marshawn Lynch quote. If I can freaking find it. Where's my Marshawn Lynch? He's definitely.
If you just run through somebody's face, a lot of people ain't going to be able to take that over and over.
Here we go. Look at that. I want that first down. First down, sucker. Let's go. Even did the block and catch stuff on touchdowns, so it even would work for that. It was very highly effective, frankly. So here again, he's an inline guy to the left-hand side of your screen. He's first is going to make sure he gets the block laid on the edge, that he's just going to leak out, go make the touchdown. So a lot of this on the tape. Boom, boom, hold it up, leak out, make the catch, finish the run, touchdown. A little 2-for-1 here from him. And there's a lot of this on the tape, I'll tell you what. Just a ton of it. Here again, lined up almost like a fullback here on the play. Maybe we're going to get a little bit of some fullbacks looks from our guy here this year if Robbie Utes ain't up to snuff. I think Barner could do it. Chip the edge, leak out, make the catch, finish the run. Chip the edge, get out, make the catch, finish the run. I think you guys basically get the general gist of this, but this ain't his fault or this speaks to lack of route running on this. This is more speaking to the deficiencies of the offensive line last year and how much they needed the help of these tight ends just to be able to operate at a marginal level. Another chip there on Leonard Floyd, comes back on a tunnel screen. Not a big play here. Tunnel screens worked so good for us last year. There are some things I hope that Kubiak can maybe pull from last year that were really working things. The gap stuff, the tunnel screens worked really well. Here again off the left side, chips the edge. Look at that chip. I mean, this ain't just like he's trying to just tap him. He forces Floyd all the way inside. Charles Cross has got an easy alignment there after that. See how Charles can just kind of hunker down there and take it? Good job there by Barner on that chip. He can block. This kid can block. All right, so we got, I think it's Verse over there now. He's going to give Verse a little bit of the same kind of chip I just showed you. Force that guy into kind of the center of the offensive line. Don't let him get the edge here. Right into the lineman's hands. Right into the lineman's hands. Now go make the catch. Now finish the run. There we go. So you get the idea here in general terms of a lot of this stuff. Had to do it by necessity. Doesn't mean he can't run some routes as well. You can see here he's running routes on this one. He's going to be an inline guy. Fant is the H-back here. A little bit lined up behind his back butt there. But a nice little route run here by him too. So he can run the routes. Just because he did the block and leak out stuff doesn't mean he can't run some routes in here too. He can do some of that traditional stuff. I like that little change of direction there. That's a big man changing direction. Getting freed up. Love to see it. One more of these little chippers to show you on this. So he's going to be an inline guy to the left side of your screen. Right here, looking for 88. No chip on this, just another little drag. Nice catch. Good finish. Good finish. Love his rack. This guy brings a little bit of that run after the catch ability. And it's really fearless. I showed you the Detroit one. Here you go again, where he decides, I'm going to hurdle 3 guys. This guy's not like the uber most athletic guy, but he doesn't care. Not out here protecting his body, that's for sure. I don't know if a coach is going to advise him to do this one again. Just throw yourself in the air and let 4 guys have a free shot at you. But the man is tough. You can't deny that. And I really love that about him. Really love that about him. There's 2 different parts to him that to keep in mind that he brings it, or 3 parts really that he brings as a blocker, which is why I call him kind of the full meal deal as a tight end, old school as a tight end, because he can chip and leak out, gives you that sort of stuff. He can be a heads up blocker where he's right over the top of a guy across from him and he can eliminate that block even if it's an edge. And then he's a real great move blocker. Do you need him to pull back across the formation? Do you need him to get out in front and go find a middle linebacker? He can do all of what you will ask as far as for a blocker goes for the position. And so to give you an idea on this, first up, heads up blocking, how he looks with that. You've got him here over on the right side of the offensive line there, just actually it's the second tight end. Pharaoh Brown's to his left there. And so watch him heads up here, take on the edge. Plays run away from him. But that's an edge he's blocking there too. That's not an easy pull for a tight end there. Pharaoh Brown gets a nice block in there as well, lays his guy down the ground. Very good with the heads up blocking stuff. Down by the goal line, far left-hand side of your screen here. 88 right there. Again, lined up over an edge. This is a tough block for a tight end. Nothing easy about it. Actually, he ends up on the safety, sorry. Clears him right out, touchdown. Real good movement there, hands inside, clean block. After blocking edges, you get to block a little cornerback safety type. It's got to feel super easy. But he can dominate those kind of blocks. Dominate, not just execute the block, but dominate it. To the left side of the screen here. Again with an edge just right over the top of him. Now down near the goal line here on this one too. Touchdown. Plays ran away from him a little bit. So these kind of plays, when you're blocking off the edge, you don't need to drive block this. In fact, it's kind of in your best interest to let the edge get a little bit of depth on you because he's going to run himself out of the play. So you just got to absorb the block and let your running back run past. Just what he does. But no, you're not going to get whiffs with Barner. You're not going to get the horrible bad block snaps. He's going to get a hat on a hat. Same thing here. Blocking off the edge. Notice when he blocks on this, look at the hand placement. Right to the inside of the chest there. You're not going to get any holding calls if you get that hand into the inside of the chest. It's when it gets outside up on the shoulders, around the head, and then get some drive with it too. Look at that. Get some actual leg drive in the block. This is an edge he's doing this against, not a linebacker, not a safety. And that guy ends up on his back. In fact, I think this is Michael Clemens, who's a very strong defensive end. That kid was a beast coming out. All right, Cardinals are going to run a little bit of a high-octane blitz on this play. Barner's over on the right-hand side of your screen. Again, just heads up blocking here. Edge, no problem. Gino's got to get the ball out of his hands fast because the blitz completes it. Somebody's going to be open if that many guys are coming on the blitz. It's not a dominant rep, but this is a successful rep. There's no pressure there on the play. Here you got him on the left-hand side of your screen. In line. Hands inside. Routes his guy right around. Guy ends up dumped on his butt. Zaven Collins. Collins reads this and reads it well. Gets inside the shoulder, but Barner able to just keep redirecting him through there. What a great block here. So he kind of loses, recovers, pancake. Initial good block, loses, recovers, pancake. Again, this is against an edge. This is a tough block, high degree of difficulty block for a tight end. Collins is a former inside linebacker convert, so there is that part of it. Again, over on the left-hand side of the screen here, again, up against an edge. Again, going to be a man-on-man, hat-on-hat kind of block here. So this is not him who causes the fumble. What happens here is Charles Cross loses Collins on the right-hand side. See, if you look to the right, Cross loses his guy. Guy rips the ball out of Geno's hand for a fumble. But Barner actually does a better job than Charles Cross does on this play of blocking his guy, because he routes his guy out of the back of the pocket. Cross loses his guy and causes the strip sack fumble. So a very good block here by Barner. He can pass protect, he can run block, he can drive block. Here you're going to get him over on the right-hand side of your screen, excuse me. So he's over here. And the thing, notice, so I talked about the whiff. Look at the left-hand side of the screen here. Look at the whiff from your tight end on the other side. That's Mabry. Look how bad, when I talk about there are no whiffs on tape with Barner, what you see with Mabry on that snap, that complete whiff by that player who goes and makes the tackle, there's not one of those snaps I saw from Barner last year as a blocker on tape. He might lose the rep, but he's not going to blow the rep. And if you look at him over on the right-hand side of your screen, again, he eliminates the defensive back, no problem. So the play doesn't go for a touchdown, but it's not Barner's fault. It's not on him. Barner again here, far right-hand side of your screen, against the edge over here. Kind of belabor this, but I think you guys get kind of the point on this. Again, good block, gets a 2-for-1 here. So get a little bit of a loop, little twist here. Picks up the twister. And while he's picking up the 2-for-1 on this play, again, to show you a little bit of, look what he's doing versus another tight end on the very same play and what they're doing and how they're failing. Look at Farrell Brown over on the right-hand side of your screen as well, coming in motion. So Farrell Brown's going to be this guy right here that's in mid-motion here prior to the snap. Look at what happens to him. He ends up causing a holding penalty because he loses his block on Budda Baker. There's the penalty. Meanwhile, you got Barner, take care of that guy. Now I'll take care of this guy. There's a little bit of a dichotomy between the difference of those two guys and what they were doing on the field. What one guy was able to bring versus the other. But just seamlessly picks up the 2-for-1. And there's some good 2-for-1s on tape with Barner, by the way. There's some moments with him where he's able to accomplish 2 blocks and 1 on a single play, and it's very impressive. So here you got him as a H-back, a little bit off the line of scrimmage here. He's going to do a 2-for-1. Gets the first block at the point of attack and gets into the second block. Helps with the first block. So what he's doing on the first block is you're taking the edge and you're making sure that edge can't take a hard edge there because you're running to that side. So you want to force him into the tackle's arms. Make sure he's heads up with the tackle, which he does here first. Got you centered up with the tackle. You're good on your block. Now I can get down to the second level guy and clear my guy. He's making that look a lot easier than it really is. It's hard enough to do one block, much less the timing and getting to that second block in the right time. Very impressive. So he can block in line. He can do a 2-for-1 a little bit, but he also is able to really be, and maybe what he does best, you could say, is even better than anything else, is the blocking on the move, where post-snap, which is a little bit of what that last block I showed you kind of was, but this is going to be even more so. A lot of pulling back across the formation, but very comfortable going and targeting a guy in space. Boom. Come back, pull across the formation, just like a lead fullback would here on this play, but you're coming from the tight end position to do it. And again, the play doesn't go for very much, but not because of Barner. He lands his block well here. Perfectly on time, hits his block smoothly. Very comfortable moving in space, this kid. Left-hand side of your screen. Watch again the movement after the snap. Get to the block. Land the block right. Boom. Hit that guy in the hole. Maybe like a little more sustaining there. But he's always, if he loses the block slightly or doesn't get a complete dominance on the block, he's going to get the hat on the hat at least. This play ends up going for 4 or 5 yards because he at least make sure he doesn't whiff the block. He gets the hat on the hat. Or you got him on the right-hand side of your screen. Back with his hand in the dirt, in line. Gets to the second level. Climbs, finds his man. Keeps his hands in the right place. Doesn't do too much here to draw a holding penalty. Hands inside again. But it's a good balk. So it's 16, 17-yard play by McIntosh here on the play. And he's leading the way. Leading the way through. A couple more blocks here just to show you guys on these second level stuff again here. Left-hand side of your screen. Right here. Going to climb to the second level again. Go find his block. Get it laid. That's on, I think that's on Buda Baker there. And this one almost goes for a touchdown. Right over him. Some of that gap running from last year. You saw Toa pulling back in space. You get Farrell Brown pulling back in space post-snap. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Look at all those bodies coming off. And that looked great. I hope we can use more of this gap stuff this year. That'd be just sweet. But good job of him getting to Buda Baker. Seals him off from the play. He'll dominate safeties and cornerbacks. Here he's on the here he's right behind actually the quarterback, so it's hard to kind of see him. I know he's in mid-motion here. So 88's just behind the quarterback here prior to the snap. So if you're going to miss and you're not able to land square, here Hassan Reddick's coming off the edge. If you can't hit him in the chest square, make sure he has to go around you and take the wide path, because the ball carrier will then have an opportunity to get past you. So Kenneth Walker, if he lets him on the inside shoulder here, he's got a route to Walker. But you play to that inside shoulder of Hassan to force Hassan to then go around you, and then by the time he's around you, Walker's gone. Good job even to recover, because he kind of loses the block but then gets back in. But that simple little thing of go not the right shoulder, but take the right shoulder of Hassan, but you're going to Barner's left. Attack that inside shoulder, make him go around you. Walker will be gone even if you lose the block, even if you don't win. So just win initially in the spot and the placement, and you will win the rep. He understands this. This has got to be a bit of, to me, sometimes with him on some of his refinement and blocking comes from that Michigan background, and just how much Harbaugh, wanted to make sure these guys were on point with that type of stuff. Saw it with him in college, that's for sure. So this stuff is definitely carried through from what you got to see with him on tape in that way. Again, he's going to be in motion here prior to the snap, mid-motion. Gets out in front. Play doesn't go for much, but not because of Barner. He's where he needs to be. He's on his guy. Everybody else kind of loses their block. And if we get some of the rest of the blocking down, I think you're going to feel what he brings as a blocker that much more. If we get some of these snaps, you can feel where you're not getting much of as far as the game goes, but it's not because of him. It's not because he's not done his job and been out there and been sometimes sub-dominant, especially as a blocker in that job. It's that you had other guys just completely mess up. Here he's got a really tough job here, which is he's going to be in pass protection, and he's got to come back across the formation post-snap. So he's got to go from here back all the way over here to go catch a really quick edge rusher who's in a wide 9 to the other side of the formation. That's a tough pull for a tight end. I got to block an edge, or actually, defensive tackle, not the edge. But he's got to come all the way across for the guy some build-up speed and then route him right past Geno. And Geno then gets a pass interference call here. So you can see the red-yellow flag coming in here at the end. There it is. But a nice block here. Good job by Geno to kind of duck around it there as well. A couple more of these blocks. I just like these. These are fun for me to watch. I enjoy watching a guy go about his business like this, because it ain't This ain't going to get you to Pro Bowls necessarily, but it's going to help you win football games. Fred Warner, get out in front of him here. First down on a fly sweep here to Jackson Smith and Jigba. When he's moving in space, he's got some really good contact to where he can kind of lay a little bit of an explosive blow as he's moving in space. So he's not just going to get his hands on you, but once he arrives, he can actually kind of light you up just a little bit, like he does here with Fred. Gives him a little bit of a how you doing? How's your day going, Fred? How you like that, Fred? Huh? How's that taste, Fred? You like that? Down by the goal line here. He can be a weapon down here in his ability to block. Over here on the right side of the formation. A couple of Niners down there lingering. Probably ends up going away from him there. Oh, I got the wrong guy. My bad. That's my bad. He's over on the left side. So he's mid-motion here. Misidentified there. Malik Mustafa. Remember I just showed you the Fred Warner one where there was some violence on contact? I mean, tell me that's not a little violent. Huh? Boom. 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 There we go. Touchdown. Almost kind of helps out with 27. Like 20, he hits his guy and then he kind of sticks in front of 27 there. Look at that little subtle get in front of 27 there. And that's just enough for 27 to be a little belabored to get into Walker. Not a full-on second 2-for-1 block, but a little bit there. Angles into him a little bit. Last couple here. Round this up. Over on the left-hand side of your screen, up against the edge. Chips him. Gets out in front and blocks Fred Warner down the field. I mean, another 2-for-1 situation where first take care of the edge, clear him out, then get up ahead of DK Metcalf, who's running a drag route. That's a fast man in DK. He's still able to get out in front of him and lay his block. Again, the play doesn't go for a huge gain, but not because Barner doesn't do what he's supposed to do. And boy, the timing on this is just pure, isn't it? Bye. You're out of the way. You're out of the way. Just as some of my other guys could get their job done for the hell of it. Here we got Kenneth Walker doing Kenneth Walker things. Barner's going to be lined up in the slot on this play. And he's got to come down and climb down onto Fred Warner and lay that block. Bye, Fred. And Walker just reverses field here. I had to speed it up because I can only show sometimes so much of the film on this stuff before YouTube gets mad at me. But good little block on Warner here. Warner does a good job getting off of it, but that initial violent blow, you as a defender have to take into account. He's going to come at you with some force. You're not just going to get a guy trying to kind of block you haphazardly or slightly or just do the bare minimum. He's looking to actually give you a little bit of the thunder and lightning there, huh? Another one here where he's got to get down onto the linebacker, climbs up on the linebacker. Look at that. Boom. And on contact, you get to feel a guy's power, strength there. Boom. Boom. You're out. You're out of the hole. Walker again's got to deal with four other guys here on this play because Pharaoh Brown loses his block, right? JSN loses his block. You got DeMondre Lenore coming down untouched. So Walker's got a whole nother other stuff he's got to get around on this play, but it's not because of Barner. Barner didn't mess up his job here. Maybe a little bit of why we don't take more note of how good a blocker he was last year is because so many guys would be failing on the blocks and you wouldn't get a great play from it, so it's harder to kind of take note of. Here he's going to loop inside of Pharaoh Brown, so he's on the far outside edge, kind of as an H-back. And then he's just going to loop on in around here, find the linebacker again, get the hat on the hat, and Walker's got penetration all over the place. But Barner in there getting his job done. Can move in space, can land these kind of blocks, can land it pretty consistently. And so this was his season. This was his year. It was a lot of, I'm going to chip and leak out. It's a lot of, I'm going to block heads up. I'm going to be blocking in space. It was a lot of it times I'm going to have to sit on the bench and kind of wait my turn so Fant can be out here depending on the matchup, with how Grubb wanted to run it. There's some weeks he's going to want to run with more of the 3 wide, 1 tight end. That 1 tight end's then going to be Fant. Then you're only going to get Barner out there for some selective snaps. So Barner wasn't allowed to run free and wild, a little bit like Jeremy Stevens or John Carlson, the 2 guys that are right there with him in Seahawks history as far as rookie tight ends. Those other guys were also in offenses that were going to more feature him, those players, in running routes and getting up the field and having opportunities to really take the top, not off of the defense, but make more kind of chunk plays versus being kind of an outlet guy like he had to be at times. Not because he can't go run those routes, but because your offensive line just couldn't pass protect well enough to where they needed the help. They needed the chips. And it speaks to him and how good a player he is to me that he can do all that. You can fit him within this very tight box and these confines that he has to operate within. Yet he still goes out and finds a lot of success last year all the way around in his game, where you don't see anything that's a big limiting factor to his game or some inherent problematic aspect to his game, but that you see he gives you everything in what he brings to the table on it. Not that it's star potential, but you're going to go far as an NFL team if you can have full, complete players all across the board. And I spoke at the top of the show, and I do really believe in it, that if this team is going to go get to a contending state this year, it's going to be by the assembly of the parts, not by the star players driving it. If the Niners can go win this division this year, it's because the top-heavy nature of their roster has allowed them to go get the division. If the Rams win the division this year, it's because the top-heavy nature of their roster is going to drive them to that place. If the Hawks get there, it's because young guys have come forward. It's because Mike McDonald's defense has set. It's because guys like A.J. Barner or Tyrese Knight are being above-average players in this sport, if not getting into that next level of their game of not full-on close to being kind of Pro Bowler-type players. It's because you got all of those guys in that way, and that you don't have the weak link. You don't have the parts of your teams that are just sort of failing, or there's a big, massive hole here that you have to overcome with these other really great players. And so they're doing it a little bit differently here in how they've set this up. And it's very much reminiscent, of course, back to the way we did it 10 years ago, where you were trying to build a full team up. You had the highest paid offensive line in the sport when Russell walked in. You had that defense that you were slowly putting together for Coach Carroll at that time. You had a special teams unit. You had gotten the skill position players. You made the trade for a Marshawn Lynch. Yeah, you had some stars on that team, and stars developed even further beyond that in the future years as they got better and they were able to ascend. But the dynamic and what you were trying to build was a team first and foremost. And I love that about John Schneider's approach here, because I think it's very precarious operating from the top-heavy approach of things. One injury here, one injury there, and suddenly you find yourself at the bottom of the division like the San Francisco 49ers did last year. It's a lot tougher way to operate. It's a lot smaller of a keyhole to get yourself through as far as success versus this one, which I think has a lot more of an opportunity for success because you can see it just happening from a couple of different directions, not just one path, which is a little bit of, I think, how those Niners and Rams have to operate. By the way, that they're set up and how they have constructed those rosters. So you let me know. You feeling A.J. Barner's rookie year? Do you think this guy's got some more ability even beyond what he showed this year? Can he scratch his way out into becoming a Pro Bowl player? Certainly with Arroyo here, it's probably not likely to happen. But this is also where that interconnectivity comes back into play. So you have all these solid players that can do all these really good things, which is cool. But then when you come to the tight end position, we don't want to have to force Arroyo to do, we talked about Byron Murphy last year. I don't want to force Arroyo to do Byron Murphy nose tackle dirty work, do I? I want to use Arroyo like a weapon. Arroyo can block. Yeah, he's willing. He's not going to be the blocker of a Barner, though. So Barner can come in there and do the hard hat stuff, can do the heavy lifting with that, and then you can truly use a guy like Arroyo as that weapon kind of piece. Fant, in much of the same way, we'll see if he's going to remain on the roster and how that's going to go, but Fant's similar kind of player. That's the guy everybody was kind of comping Arroyo to, or a few people were. So you can use those guys into where they're best suited, not to be forcing them to have to play the inline situation. You get guys into the pure roles where they can be at their best. You do that collectively across the board on your roster, and that's how you can build a roster into being a contending team, in my opinion. There's a variety of ways to do this. You can have the quarterback lead you, and he's the superhero and the superstar, and he's doing it all on his own, and you have some supporting parts, but you really just lean on him. But you can do it this way too, where it's really the team conceptually that's going to drive this thing. And that gets me excited. Worked 10 years ago, hopefully to work again here as we go into the future. But you guys let me know in the comments and what you thought about Barner's rookie year. Do you think he's got more to build upon? Do you think he's just going to be a blocker, inline kind of guy, and that he's here just to do the dirty work? Maybe the case, and that's not the worst thing for him. But I think he showed you a lot of ability last year. And don't undersell the fact that's the third best receiving rookie season for a tight end in Seahawks history. And then he brought all of that blocking to bear on top of it. Not a one-trick pony, but he gives you both of those two parts to his game, and I think that's going to weigh in pretty big as we go into the future here. Thank you guys for watching today. If you could for me, please, please, please do hit that like button, as I really do appreciate it. And thank you guys for hanging in here with me on this and doing the off season as we are. I know a lot of into baseball and guys are on vacation. We had a great turnout here on the shows, and we've had some really great feedback with doing these daily shows. So we're going to keep them going. We're just going to keep them on rolling. Do a little bit of discussion with you guys in the chat here, then we'll kind of wrap it up and head on into our weekend. I hope you guys had a great week and you got some great plans this weekend. Super Zeke the Freak says, Baby Gronk was a good pick for Seattle. Let's go. JL says, I couldn't remember if Barner dropped any passes, so I looked it up. Baby B said it already, but only 3 drops out of 38 targets. Yeah. And not really any egregious drops, I will say to you on that. I was able to find one, which is this one right here, where he's coming across on a kind of a drag route here, and just that's a pure lapse in concentration. You know, it should reel this one in. He's thinking about running after the catch here, but there's not a lot of snaps with him. To your point on that, where there's horrible drops where it's just like, dude, butterfingers. No, he's got pretty good solid hands. I wouldn't say it's going to be, there's definitely going to be tight ends in the sport that are going to be more dynamic hand wise, but 3 out of 4 catches at uncontested catch situations, 75% rate. That's good, though it's a small sample size. It shows he's got some ability to do it. But some of that's a little bit of a question too, because we just don't have the utilization of him. So much of it was the chip and leak out kind of routes that he's running. So we don't know as much on him as a route runner, but not because he can't do it, just because we don't know. You just haven't seen as much of that. Misfit says crackbacks were elite. He's a great crackback blocker. He's a great blocker all the way around. He's just a complete in that way. I mean, there's nothing you can pick apart in his game as a blocker to me. And he's only going to get stronger. Fun P says AJ Barner seeks contact like a slimmer Gronk. I love that pick. It's so true, Fun P. And it's part that kind of I'd remembered last year a little bit, but going back in through the tape and watching it again and seeing how run after run, every catch, he's looking to lower his head. He's looking to finish it violently. And that is Gronk-like, where you're just, there's a lot of tight ends that want to get down. I mean, Fant will be a bit like this too. Like he sees an out of bounds marker. He thinks he's got all the yards to get. He'll run out of bounds. He's not looking to always turn upfield and lower his head. Not at all. It's a lot of these guys like to try to protect their body, but he was pretty fearless about it last year. So that's his typical Laken Tomlinson getting his ass beat in that rep. Yeah, Laken had some rough ones on there, didn't he? Pray for CJ Stroud this year. Says I hope we can get a trade done with Fant. Not sure anyone's going to take on his contract though. I think it's going to be hard. To your point, it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle with that one. And I don't know if the team's just going to saying the hell with it. We'll roll with Fant Arroyo this year, but my guess is that it's probably going to be a matter of time on that one. What's up, Donnie? How you doing, man? It's good to see you in the house. Janet? Yeah, I think he's underrated too, Jay Melfair. And he should be around for a while, that's for sure. Fun P, AJ Barner was a huge surprise. He looks for contact and pushes the safeties backwards and number fumbles. Just keeps driving. That's for sure, brother. 100%. David says, young coach, young players. Hopefully a couple of seasoned acquisitions help lead the young guys forward and show them the way. Amen, David. And I've preached for patience here with the fan base a little bit. I know that people are chomping at the bit for this team to become that contender. And it is a process, and the team is doing this right. And if you're going to do it right, it means it's not half-baked. It's not that you're trying to skip ahead to the front of the line. It means that you're slowly allowing the process to kind of unfold to become the team you want to become so that you can be a sustained winner for a long period of time. And I think that that's the approach this team's taken right now. And that might also mean that, to your point on that the benefits, might not exactly be landing in 2025. The potential's there. The talent is there. The youth is there. The coaching brain trust is there. You've got the money to spend if you want to go for a little bit further or there. There's a lot of things to make it potentially happen, but there's no guarantees on it when you got this development happening. I think they are on the right approach. They are on the right path. And just a couple of things lock into place, David, this year. A A couple guys go from being good players to really great players, star level players. And you get some young guys that are able to give you some immediate returns. You can get there. You can get there this year. Absolutely you can. Jay Mailfair, AJ, and a certain new tight end will balance each other nicely in two tight end sets. Different complementary skills. 100%. 100%. You're going to let Arroyo now be freed up. No inline stuff for Arroyo, or a very bare minimum stuff for Arroyo as an inline guy. Allow him to be suited to the role where he will be at his best. And this sounds straightforward and like a no-duh thing, I know. Well, yeah, that's what you should do. We just talked yesterday, though, about a Byron Murphy, who you're not putting in the position to do what he does best. So while this might seem like straightforward that this is what all teams do at all times, here in Seattle, it's not always been that way. We do have a little bit of a track record at times of not always understanding this lesson of put the player where he will be best. Where will he be the most productive for you? Not what you need, not some hole you haven't dealt with in your roster building, but where will this guy be at his best to maximize his value? And you do that across the board with as many players as you can on your roster, and now you're pushing yourself in the right direction to get to that contending state, I think. Versus the other way, which is if you got 3 or 4 guys in your roster, 3 or 4 starters in your roster that are kind of being played out of position. Oh, this guy's a safety. You got him as a slot. This guy's a center, but you got him as a left guard. You do that over the variety of things. Now you're limiting some of that upside of that team too, to the other side of it when you go the other direction. Could Pete Carroll and the Raiders want Fant? I don't think so, Fun. They have Bowers first, and so that right there is going to now make that a little bit harder to make roll because in Fant's case, he would be kind of the same kind of player of a Bowers, and both are going to be more H-back tight end types. So there's really not a role there for you to bring him in over there on that one. And they still have Michael Mayer there, so they're still too deep at the tight end position it stands, even if they're thinking we'll just move Fant to the inline guy. So no, they wouldn't be much of a target. I do think, as somebody else said above on this, that you're just kind of stuck in that there's really not probably any value for Fant. I think that John's probably going to try to hold on to him and see if there's some situation that changes somewhere league-wide. So, for instance, you have today there's talk of Kyle Pitts being on the open market and that maybe the Falcons are going to be open to trading him. Okay, so if the Falcons trade Pitts, do the Falcons now have an opening for you to be able to throw Fant to them for a 5th-round pick? Because they've moved Pitts at that point. I think John's waiting for that kind of situation. But when it all comes down to it, it's probably most likely that you're just going to have to cut him away at that. Have a great weekend, James. You too, on that side of it. Tony 10 times. Good to see you, brother, in the house. So that's the send him to Miami for Jalen Ramsey. Well, again, to your point on this one too, Seth, just like I talked about with Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith is another guy that's being talked about as maybe being put on the market for the for the Dolphins as well. And Jonnu Smith would be more H-backy. He can do inline stuff too, but he's got some H-backy stuff to him as well. So the Dolphins could be a team that if they do move Jonnu Smith, then does have a need for a little bit of a tight end to come in there as well, to your point on that. So it's definitely a possibility. Fun Pete, isn't there a team I heard looking to get a tight end in a trade recently? There's some teams out there kicking the tires. I think it'd be more of those teams, like I said there, where it's a Falcons or a Dolphins team that's now moved off of a tight end that you thought they were solidified at. They've got to go find something that's going to be functional for them for the upcoming season after they've had the loss they've had for the position. The only tough part with the Dolphins one will be their salary cap situation, because I don't even know if they can take on the base of a Noah Fant, but some of that might depend on if they move a Ramsey and if they move a Jonnu Smith on the other side of it. But I don't think that there's a glaring team out there that stands out that's like desperately in need of a tight end. It'd just be more if you're looking for one of those kind of what's the word? Fluid situations, let's call it. Ricardo, oh man, missed the podcast. I was really surprised about Barner. We are really stacked at tight end right now. Oh, we are. We're sitting really pretty right now at the tight end position. And you got a good variety of skill sets within it too. Not even redundancy where you go, well, you got a lot of the same guys. You got the different guys that can fit to the different positions, that can do the different skills, and very excited about what we're bringing to play on that positional group this upcoming season. Very dynamic. They can block, they can catch, they can give you some run after the catch, some rack ability, as we saw with Barner last year, and I think even Arroyo gives you a little bit of that. I don't think it's a centerpiece of his game by any measure, but he can give you a little bit of that. I thank you guys for watching today. Like James says, I hope you guys have a great great weekend. And again, appreciate all of the awesome turnout here. I don't know if you guys can tell, but we've kind of been adding to the backdrop here a little bit over the last couple of days. I got to fix my Seahawks street sign. But we got a Metcalf jersey here from our guy Mark Sanchez. Got that all framed up there on that side. We got a Seahawks helmet I was able to add to the background here, so it's really coming into bloom on that side of it. I have been mentioning, just to want to put this out there again to you guys, we're doing a meetup in kind of an odd area here. It's going to be a NFC West roundtable meetup. For those that aren't aware, I do an NFC West roundtable show on a weekly basis over there on that channel. And we're going to have all four of us guys, the Cardinals, Mike and Jake and Jesse, are all going to meet up in LA for the LA Rams 49ers Thursday night football game in early October. So we're going to be doing this meetup, doing a meetup with fans. We're going to be doing the night before at a bar. We're going to be doing tailgating. There's going to be tickets that are included on the package. So there's a lot actually in this package for $300. These tickets are pretty expensive out there in the Rams Stadium. But if you are interested in coming down from Seattle and hanging out with us and checking it out, please do check out that link below and click on it. It's right down there in the description section. As it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to being able to go do that in early October. And Hawks aren't playing, but I just get to be there needling Niner and 49er fans. You know, and that'll make it a lot of fun. I'll make it a lot of fun. I do thank you guys for watching. Again, just as a one last request on that, if you guys could, again, hit that like button. It does help out the channel, helps me grow, helps it show up on the algorithm, helps YouTube say, hey, we got to show this to other people that are looking for Seahawks content. And I really, really do appreciate it. We got a full stretch of shows on deck for you in the next week. And what I'm really, really looking forward to talking about on Monday is the 3 safety looks. Last year, Mike McDonald and bringing a lot of things into bear. And you know, he's a guy that's in the lab at all times with the Bunsen burner and the beakers. And he's in there trying to come up with new things. And something that he had carried over from the Baltimore Ravens is these 3 safety looks, this willingness to utilize these 3 safeties. And a lot of this has to do with sort of countering the 12 personnel packages. Last year in the NFL, you saw as much use of 12 personnel as we have ever seen. And a lot of teams, historically speaking, have slid into going into more of a nickel situation against 12 personnel, whereas historically, if you go back 15, 20 years, you're going to be in a base defense if you're going to face 12 personnel. Well, now you've gone to nickel, and now this is sometimes has benefited offenses to be able to find some real good holes in the ground game because you're going up against lighter personnel. You're getting that slot corner out there rather than it being a base linebacker. Well, what you're seeing with McDonald, I think on the counter, what we're going to talk about here on Monday, is that he, in this 3 safety look, is now looking into those nickel situations to bring out that big nickel. Kick Devin Witherspoon maybe at times now out to outside cornerback. So now you can get a little bit more size, you get a little bit bigger, you can get another tackler on the field. And when you flip out a Job, for instance, for a Witherspoon, you're getting a much better tackler now on the outside. And then you have an Emawari guy that can play it like linebacker or play it like a safety. And that what you have then as a safety is a guy that can come down and play the run, but then also has the capability to spot drop, to get into space, to get into zone, to be able to cover a wide area of the field, to still give you some coverage area on the other side of it. So, you know, it's always a game of offense does this, defense does that. Offense then counters this, defense then counters the offense back this way. Offense now counters it to the defense and what they're doing. And I'm speaking to how trends go. And so this is as much of something to potentially get ahead of the way the trend is going with the 2 tight end prevalence and with how teams are playing that with the nickel looks versus you being able to go with more of a big nickel or go with the 3 safety look on that side of it to make sure that you got a little bit more extra kind of, you know, beef in there versus the lighter slot corner that you typically have on the field at that time to be able to not get gashed then in the run game on that side, but still cover it up if they want to go to the pass game. Just one of the reasons why Nick Emawari might be so useful for this team, not just in the long term, if he can rise to sort of a stardom place of things, but just walking in as a rookie and fitting to a role, fitting to a collection of snaps and excelling in that role and not being asked to do too much in your rookie year, being overloaded. Seahawks are in a really good position with Nick, I think, to be able to utilize him in that way and find a really cool role for him where he can be really dynamic instantaneously. I thank you guys for watching today. Really, really appreciate it. I've had a lot of fun being able to do these daily shows with you guys. We're going to keep this going throughout this off season. Hit that like button, maybe sub on up. But beyond all that, as you're heading into the weekend and baseball's going good, Mariners are in first place, don't you forget, it's a team that might be on the rise this year. This team might be ready to roll this year. This team might be ready to finally take back this division. First team in NFL history that's had back-to-back winning seasons and has not yet gone to the playoffs in those 2 years. They're not just knocking on the door. They got a battering ram banging on that door. And it might be this year that we finally get to see that thing crash down, Hawks walk through, and we get to go through the next great run of Seattle Seahawks football teams. I know you're going to be here for it, but I just hope you don't forget. Don't you ever do it. Don't you ever do it. Go Hawks.